Questions and answers are very satisfactorily dealt with when the inquirer is bona fide and the speaker is also authorized. Here Maitreya is considered a powerful sage, and therefore he is also described as Bhagavan. This word can be used not only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but for anyone who is almost as powerful as Supreme Lord. Maitreya is addressed as Bhagavan because he was spiritually far advanced. He was a personal friend of Dvaipayana Vyasadeva, a literary incarnation of the Lord. Maitreya was very pleased with the inquiries of Vidura because they were the inquiries of a bona fide advanced devotee. Thus, Maitreya was encouraged to answer. When there are discourses on transcendental topics between devotees of equal mentality, the questions and answers are very fruitful and encouraging. So here the chapter entitled The Glories of Devotional Service has just begun, and here we are seeing that Vidura, there's a conversation going on between Vidura and Maitreya Rishi, and Vidura is asking a lot of questions about Krishna, questions about devotional service to Maitreya, and Maitreya is very pleased with the questions of Vidura because they are all questions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this whole chapter will be about giving those answers, talking about the glories of devotional service. So Prabhupada starts off the purport by saying that questions and answers are very satisfactorily dealt with when the inquirer is bona fide and speaker is also authorized. So here we have, just like Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, the original speaker and hearer. Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj were great devotees. And in the same way here also we see two very great devotees have met. Maitreya Rishi is of course being compared here on the level of Bhagavan because he is a very powerful sage, and so he is described as Bhagavan. And Vidura, a great devotee. So this combination of inquiry from great devotees and answers by great personalities almost equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very nice, and the answers are very fruitful and very encouraging. So Maitreya Rishi is very encouraged to answer these questions. Here we are seeing questions and answers being asked between a very powerful, a great devotee, and being replied by very elevated saints like Maitreya Rishi. Actually, question and answers are the very fundamental things in our existence in life. There is no person who hasn't got questions and he's constantly seeking after answers. Not only human species, but every species of life, from the time they have taken birth till death, we are only engaged in questions and receiving answers. Whether it's a small child, we know that story of Prabhupada once narrated the story how he was walking in Calcutta along with his son. He was a small son, maybe 3-4 years old at that time. And a marriage party was going by. And children anyway are very inquisitive and they keep on asking many things. So he went on asking his father, "Father, what is this? What is this?" And then Prabhupada was explaining to him, this is a marriage party procession going on, because the son had never seen a procession like this. And then he says, "Who is this boy?" So father told him, "This is the boy who is supposed to get married." And all that Prabhupada was explaining to his son. And then the son suddenly asked Prabhupada, his father, "Father, "Are you married?" And everybody burst into a laughter. And then Prabhupada used this anecdote to explain, see how a small child, he has to ask questions. So some questions he is asking. He doesn't know that this question doesn't make any sense. Otherwise, how is he existing? But he'll ask questions. So in the same way, we are all asking questions, right from the child, right from the time when we are small, till the time we die. Every day, except maybe during the time that we are sleeping, questions are not being asked. But otherwise, right from the time we get up in the morning, we need the newspaper. Questions and answers. We get up, children go to the school, questions and answers between teachers and students. Lawyers, questions and answers. Some company, some stock market, questions and answers. Government officers, questions and answers. So although we are going on asking questions and answers every day throughout our life, we are not still satisfied. Why are we asking questions and answers? Because something we want answers for some satisfaction, for some happiness, but that's not coming. So the question should be asked that, am I asking the right questions? Are these questions capable of satisfying me? And Bhagavatam says no. Why? Because only questions about Krishna will actually satisfy the self. But because we have forgotten Krishna, we are asking all different kinds of questions all throughout the day, and we are not being satisfied. So therefore the real questions that we should ask is, where is Krishna? Who is Krishna? What is my relationship with him? And for this, we need a qualified person who will answer. Just like Vidura is asking all these questions to Maitreya. So who is the person that we need? We need a bona fide guru. And we have to surrender unto him and ask these kinds of questions. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam. What kind of questions? This verse says, Tasmad gurum prapadyeta. First of all, we must go and surrender to a guru. And jignasu, we should be inquisitive. We have to ask questions to him. Questions about what? Shreya uttamam. Not these ordinary questions. Questions about material existence, about material happiness, about shreyas. There are two kinds of, questions that we can be asking. What is my immediate benefit, or what is my ultimate benefit? So it is questions about spiritual life, questions about Krishna comes under the category of shreyas. Shreyas means that which will ultimately be beneficial for me. In material life, we are so narrow-minded and we do not have information that we are only looking for temporary, immediate, quick pleasures. Not knowing that any questions regarding this has got no meaning because ultimately they will end in suffering. Prabhupada gives a nice example about Shreyas, a child generally he just wants to play. He'll be happy. You tell the child, go to school, go and study, sit down and study, he will not be interested. Because by nature he is playful at that time. But a mother knows that for the child, even though playing is interesting for him now, he should actually go and study. Because if he studies, he will become qualified and then he will live a happy life. That education will make him situate, it will give him a good life. So that is the kind of question. What should I be doing in this life so that ultimately I will be happy? We are all looking for temporary happiness, temporary riches, temporary wealth, and if we don't have asking questions about that, and we are unhappy. So the real question, Prabhupada writes that questions about spiritual life, that's the topic we are discussing. Our education, the education that we go through in schools and colleges should be such that they should help us to question about the spiritual needs. Education should make us inquisitive about self-realization and not about material subjects. That verse, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddha, it is said, who is a Manushya? Manushya means that person who is inquiring about spiritual subject matter. Otherwise, if a person is not even inquiring about spiritual subject matter, he is actually not even a manushya. He is just like an animal. Why? Because animals also inquire. Every day morning, the birds, they get up in the morning and they're inquiring, Prabhupada, where is food, where is food? Whole day and night, their inquiries are only about eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And this even the animals do. So if our inquiry is also limited only to these 4 kinds of activities, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, then we are no better than animals. We have been given such a wonderful opportunity in this human form of life to question about Lord, to understand our relationship with Him. And if we don't do that, then we are as good as animals. So these are the kinds of questions that Bhagavatam is answering, and we have a wonderful opportunity to understand about Krishna from that. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a nice parable, a small story that is mentioned about how we are trying to find answers to these material needs, and we are asking, what is the general question that everybody has in this world today? How can I earn money? Right? That's all our activities, sense gratification, as Prabhupada says. Every eating, sleeping, mating, everything is about sense gratification. And sense gratification can be very easily achieved if you have enough money. So how can I earn money? How can I earn money so that I can get my food? This is the common question. So there was once a man who was very sad and depressed. He was distressed. So one astrologer came to meet him. The astrologer's name is Sarvagna. By that you can understand what Sarvagna means, one who knows everything. So this astrologer comes to meet him and asks him, why are you distressed? Actually, everybody is distressed in this material world, right? Sanatana Goswami. And actually, a distressful situation in this material world is actually very advantageous. Because only when we are distressed do we ask questions. Why am I distressed? How? So it could be a spark leading to getting the right answers. Because otherwise, if you are not distressed, that's why it is said that in material world, Krishna has purposefully created sufferings in this material world so that a human being can be awakened to real knowledge. Because if there is no suffering, then it will not even strike him that what is the goal of life, because he is happy leading his material happy life. So, like Sanatana Goswami says, Ke ami, keno amai jare trapataya. Trapataya means the 3 types of material misery. Keno amai jare. Jare means why am I suffering from these 3-fold material miseries? Kemana hita hoy. He doesn't know. He's saying, I do not know what is my real benefit, what is my real happiness. So in the same way, one man was feeling distressed. So this Sarvagna astrologer comes and asks him, why are you feeling distressed? And then he says, I'm feeling distressed because of I'm not having money and I'm poor, and that's the reason. So this astrologer Sarvagna informs him that actually you had a very rich father, and your father has left behind vast amount of wealth and property for you. But he could not tell you about the property because he died somewhere else. So the moment this distressed person just came to know that he had a rich father, a father who had lot of property, he has been inquiring about where to get wealth, where to get money, and he was not knowing that he had a rich father, he has left so much of property. Instantly there was so much of relief. Just by knowing the fact that he has such a rich father. So, in the same way, just like the Sarvagna astrologer gave the news about the property that his father has left behind, in the same way the Vedic scriptures they are giving us news, they are giving us information about our supreme, opulent, rich father Krishna. And just by knowing this, immediately what happens? A kind of connection is established, and that gives us a lot of relief. Oh, I have got so much of, just like even if you just know I have got so much money in my bank balance, all your sufferings immediately reduce. So, now there are two things, a third thing also, which we will see. The first is, we are inquiring, where is happiness? What is the real goal of life? And this inquiry leads to the understanding that yes, final goal of life is Krishna. I should be inquiring about Krishna. So the first level of inquiry, we come to know that Krishna is there. The Vedic scriptures are there. The Supreme Lord is there. Now just knowing that the Supreme Lord is there is not enough. You have to attain Him. You have to meet Him. You have to be in association with Him. Just like a child who has lost his father. And he's lost his father and he doesn't even know that his father and mother exists. So he's suffering. The moment he comes to know that his father and mother are there, and they are there in that place, so much of relief. Now the next job or the next goal for the child will be how to go and meet his father and mother. Right? So, now the astrologer Sarvagna informed this person, distressed person, that your father has left behind the wealth, but this person didn't know how to access that wealth. So then the astrologer informs him how to access that wealth. And he says, the wealth is in this place, but there's a particular way to reach to that wealth. Only if you go on that, move in that path, will you access it. Now wealth, in those days, wealth means, it's some treasure hidden in some ground or something like that. So he says, he gives him, how can you reach any place? Basically in 4 directions, north, south, east, west, right? So this person informs him, if you dig, the wealth is here, now if you dig through the southern side for the wealth, then what will happen? Some wasps and drones will come and bite you. And your search for wealth will be futile. You will not be able to touch the wealth. This is what will happen if you dig through the southern side. Then he further says, if you dig for the wealth through the western side, then on the western side there is a big ghost. And the ghost will hallucinate you, will create mental disturbance, and you will not be able to even touch the wealth. And then he's going like this, south, west, and then he says, if you go on the northern side and try to dig the wealth from that side, then there's a big black snake sitting there in the northern side. And he will just devour you and finish you off. You'll not even exist. However, if you dig the wealth in through the eastern side, then you will lay your hands on the treasure. So this is the way to approach the wealth. So Prabhupada comments, he writes in the commentary about this parable from this text, and he says, what does it mean? How do we understand this? We have all inquired and finally found that yes, Krishna is there, God is there, and we should attain Him. We want to get to Krishna. There are many people in this world who know about Krishna, and they all want Krishna, but the process to get Krishna, in that we are very fortunate as disciples of Srila Prabhupada, we have the right understanding. But many people fail in the process to attain Krishna. They inquire about the process and somehow they are misguided to different processes. So the process, digging in the southern side, is like being bitten by the wasps and drones. So Prabhupada comments, this is like trying to get Krishna through karma kanda, to the process of karma kanda. And why this process of karma kanda is being compared to like being bitten by, karma kanda means fruitive activities. Why is it why fruitive activities are considered to be like being bitten by wasps and drones? Because fruitive activities will result in fruitive reactions. And for these reactions we have to keep coming back in this material world, keep suffering, keep going through the cycle of birth, death, old age, disease. And there'll be suffering. So, and birth, death, old age, disease, suffering, and being in the cycle of 84 lakh species, this is just like being bitten. Because when you are bitten by wasps and drones, you feel pain, and there is suffering. So this is the process compared to digging the wealth in the southern side. On the western side, if you dig, there's a ghost sitting there, and he will hallucinate you. So this western side process is trying to get to Krishna, or our wealth, Krishna is our wealth, is trying to get to Krishna by jnana yoga. Because jnana is like mental speculation. And mental speculation is basically like the ascending process. We'll be hallucinated and we'll be bewildered. We will never be able to arrive at the right conclusion. Spiritual knowledge is the process, is spiritual knowledge we get through the descending process of, the knowledge has to be revealed, or we have to understand from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So that's why it's like that. And the northern side, if we dig, it is like a big black snake which will devour us. What will happen when a big black snake devours us? That's the end of our life, right? So that process is like the mystic yoga process, wherein the yogis are trying to merge themselves into the existence, into Brahman existence, and they want to merge into the Brahman existence, and they want to nullify their existence. So that's why it's compared to like the big black snake, which is actually spiritual life is, spiritual life is, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Natve vaham jatu nasham, natvam. There was never a time when you did not exist, nor me, nor all these kings, and never will be there a time when we shall cease to exist. So there's finding Krishna and merging with him is like the worst. Nirvishesha shunyavadi pashyatya deshitarine. That's why Prabhupada has, that's a pranam mantra of Prabhupada, where he's helping us to understand what is real knowledge and what is the real process of bhakti. So, Prabhupada writes that one and the last process is the eastern process, that is Krishna consciousness or bhakti yoga. So through that process we can attain Krishna. So that is the process that we should be inquiring after, that we should be searching after. So Prabhupada writes, one not in devotional service is swallowed by the black snake of mystic yoga, hallucinated by the ghost of jnana, and bitten by the wasps and drones of fruitive acts. This is the result if you don't take to Krishna consciousness. Whereas if we take to Krishna consciousness, then the result is great. We know Krishna, and then we know the process, that is Krishna consciousness or devotional service to Guru and Krishna, and the result is we attain Krishna. In the same parable, towards the end, the third thing that is mentioned, that I was saying, the first is knowing Krishna, sambandha, inquiry about Krishna. The second is taking to the path of Krishna consciousness or devotional service, and sambandha, abhideya, and the third is prayojana. Prayojana means what is the result of taking to this devotional service, what do we get? So the results are so nice. There are three wonderful results that we get if you take to the process of Krishna consciousness as mentioned in the scriptures. What are the three results that we get? The first is Krishna. We directly get Krishna himself. The second is Krishna bhakti. Getting Krishna is one thing, being with Krishna. You can be with Krishna in so many different relationships, in so many different mellows, but Krishna bhakti also you get, devotional service to Krishna. And the third thing is Krishna prema. So Krishna, Krishna bhakti, Krishna prema. Tina, atimul, these three are wonderful riches. And these are the riches that a person should be aspiring after. Our inquiry in this life should be not this material wealth, but this spiritual wealth. This should be our inquiry. And if we have this inquiry, then very easily, it is not difficult. It is Krishna, Krishna bhakti, Krishna prema are very, very elevated, things that we can get. And all this we can get simply by this inquiry. So it is not at all difficult. And The only thing for getting all these things with inquiry, what is necessary is we should be submissive and we should surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna, just like Arjuna. He was also having a lot of questions, and then finally when he surrendered to Krishna, then he got all the answers. Nashta moha smritir labdha tvat prasadat mayachyuta. So if this submissiveness is there and we surrender to the Supreme Lord and inquire from Him, all this wealth, Krishna, Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Prema, all this is very easily possible. It is not at all difficult. The class was on questions and answers. At different stages of life, when devotees were there during pre-1977, these are some 2-3 very interesting questions, and Prabhupada gave some interesting answers to these questions. So I just thought I will share this. Once one devotee asked Prabhupada that the size of the soul is 1/10,000th, the part of the tip of the hair that we all know. So the question was, once we go back to the spiritual world, will the size of the soul still remain 1/10,000th part? Because it is said in the spiritual world we become completely spiritual. Here the soul is 1/10,000th because there's a body, and so the soul, there's a difference. What is the size of the soul when we go back to the spiritual world? So Prabhupada replies, as it is mentioned, size of the soul is 1/10,000th part. That's what its size is. Now in the material world, the soul is covered by a material body. That material body could be very small or it could be very big. As small as an ant and as big as an elephant. Prabhupada even says mountains, because in some places it is mentioned the mountains also have very faint consciousness. So it is the body which is huge, and the soul is same small spirit soul, and the body is covering this soul. That's why we are called embodied. So when we go back to the spiritual world, we give up this present body, which is due to this material conditioning, and we acquire a spiritual body. So spirit soul and spiritual body, that way it's all one and the same, right? We are completely spiritual in that sense. But the size of the soul still remains 1/10,000th, and it is covered by an entire spiritual body. So that's the understanding what we have when we go back to the spiritual world. In another instance, one question that devotees asked, we know Krishna's name is Parthasarathi. Now Prabhupada named the deities, I think it's in Delhi temple, Radha Parthasarathi. So devotees asked this question, because Parthasarathi is the name of Krishna when he was on the battlefield, right? Parthasarathi, that Sarathi driver, chariot driver, and Arjuna is Partha. So in the battlefield, how will they didn't understand the presence of the name of Radha Parthasarathi, because in battlefield it's only Krishna and Arjuna, Radha was not there. So Prabhupada, how did you name the deity Radha Parthasarathi? Was the question. So Prabhupada says, Radha can never be separated from Krishna. We all know that, right? So many examples Prabhupada gives, like the sun and the sunshine, they are inseparable. And that's what devotees also had in mind, that they can never be separated. So it's right, Radha Parthasarathi, but this Parthasarathi and Radha was not able. So Prabhupada says, very short answer he gave, and he says, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ahladini Shakti Rasmad. Radharani is a spiritual potency, right? And she is always there. But in that Radha Parthasarathi stage, she is in that particular thing, she is that internal potency is not manifested, but she is always there. That's why he named them as Radha Parthasarathi. That was a nice answer. The last one, we'll end with this. We all know that we have to address all women devotees as Matajis. So, the devotees at that time, this was very beginning in the movement, devotees asked Prabhupada, same question, so should we address all the devotees as Matajis? should we call all the devotees as Matajis? So Prabhupada said, not only we should call them Matajis, we generally know we should call devotees as Matajis. So Prabhupada says, not only we should call them as Matajis, we should actually feelingly practice that they are our mothers. We should actually understand that yes, she is my mother. So calling is one thing, and actually feeling and living in that consciousness is very important. So whenever we meet women devotees, it's very important that while we are calling them, this is Matravat paradareshu paradraveshu loshtrava yah pashyati sa panditaha. Pashyati means seeing. So calling is on one level, and seeing and believing and following it and, living like in that consciousness is what Prabhupada was saying is very important, and that is what we should remember. We'll end here. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Prem.